The Man in Line with Andy Wint.
Faster by, good afternoon. Welcome to Man in Line today on Manx Radio. Well, the lines are open. The floor is yours. It's an open line today. Just a quick addendum to the fact that Manxman went this morning at 22 minutes past 8, arriving in Heysham about now. Just that tomorrow morning's 8:45 Manxman to Heysham at the moment is subject to disruption or cancellation. Final decision tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. That's tomorrow morning's Manxman to Heysham. And as an add-on, the 1:30 Manannan to Liverpool tomorrow afternoon, subject to disruption or cancellation. So just something to be aware of if you're getting away tomorrow. 8:45 Manxman, 1:30 Manannan to Heysham and Liverpool, respectively, are at the moment in doubt. A note in from 653, if you're driving in the south, all the way from Santon to the traffic lights at Annika, there are ratchet straps lying in the middle and the side of the road. Very dangerous if a spike sticks into any car tyre. Some ratchet straps are on the road between Santon and Annika traffic lights. So I listen with interest, says Texter 879, to Timble questions regarding the steam packet on Tuesday. If I had a pint for every time arm's length was mentioned, that would be some night out. The Isle of Man is the sole shareholder and stakeholder in the company and cannot be seen to condone what I consider is the unethical practice of fire and rehire. At the end of every arm, there is a hand, and the government should reach out and get a grip of the situation and insist on independent arbitration. Steam Packet is an arm's-length company. There's another pint. Thank you. I run a business, says Bob, and I'm waiting for supplies coming from the UK by special delivery. Not yet here. Items posted on Tuesday and not on the island yet. Online orders I've sent out on Tuesday aren't even at the local sorting offices in the UK yet. Just show us leaving Douglas on their tracking. This is madness. How are businesses supposed to operate, let alone flourish, without the mail plane and the support of the government? Seems like the current administration's out of touch and it gets harder to run a business from here every day. I'm not trying not to let it detract too much from what we're trying to do, but I'm beginning to wonder why we bother. We're a small local company employing 5 people. Well, we lost the mail plane on Monday. It's well announced and everybody knows that. You can still get direct stuff because they're putting it on board the scheduled planes. But, of course, that's if the scheduled planes go. If you're experiencing any sort of delays, if you posted stuff that hasn't yet got where it should get, and are you expecting stuff that hasn't yet arrived, we'd like to hear from you. The Beach Buddies, by the way, are tied up elsewhere this weekend, so there is no Beach Buddies this weekend if you're wanting to get involved. No Beach Buddies, so you can slacken off this weekend with what you're trying to do. A note in from Ted just said, Ranulph Corwell said yesterday, 20,000 people visited the Isle of Man this year for walking holidays. Could you ask anybody or experts, is this supported by any data? If we had 20,000 walkers here, we'd be falling over them. They'd be everywhere. The hotels and service providers will be singing from the rooftops. Our coastal path is blocked in many places due to it being poorly maintained and overgrown. Is this true? 20,000 people for a walking holiday is 400 a week. 400 a week is, roughly 60 people per day on a walking holiday. 20,000 people. It's interesting, some interesting points raised yesterday regarding what Visit Isle of Man does and doesn't do. I think we can all draw the conclusion it is nothing like the old tourist board used to be, or indeed the minister, the tourism minister, the Minister of Fun, in that they have a relatively small budget, 2.5 million, including staff costs, to do that, and they see themselves as facilitators, joining people together, joining the industry with government together. Got any thoughts on the matter? If you'd like to take that up, I thought everything was a very, very open and honest discussion about where we are, and indeed, obviously, the boss of Visit Isle of Man said, we're not advertising on television really, because at the moment we don't have a strap line. We don't really know where we are. So at the moment we're getting through this. Well, the decision was taken to put Visit Isle of Man into the Department for Enterprise, and tourism sat in many different places, but that's where it is now. It's battling for attention with Finance Isle of Man, Digital Isle of Man, Locate Isle of Man, trying to get through there. So, well, if you've got any thoughts, I've got a few comments that I'm going to pass on to you as we go throughout the programme. But Sue said, just regarding speeding, which we talked about earlier on this week, I travel through Santon quite often, which has an overtaking lane on the way into Douglas. I always do the speed limit, 50 miles an hour if possible, and get a great deal of entertainment from other drivers who overtake me, then run out of overtaking lane and have to pull in behind the traffic in front of me. They're so desperate to overtake that they bust a gut, breaking the speed limit just to end up one car ahead and getting nowhere fast. I sit behind them and laugh at their futile efforts. The police could have fun there. I can't understand why they don't. Thank you, Sue, for that. This came out because Jane Paul Wilson, it was, who was on one of the middle MHKs, was talking about speeding through Glenvine and Crosby and back to Union Mills, and why we don't have speed cameras on the Isle of Man. Would you see that as a final insult to privacy? Would you see that as an impingement on your civil rights if we had speed cameras on the Isle of Man? Remember, they are unblinking. They are simply robots. They will clock you at going over whatever you are. They'll set the radar, and then you can get nicked. Many speed cameras nowadays track other problems, if they spot somebody on a mobile phone or without a seatbelt, because they take a photo. Not only do they gauge the speed, they'll take a photo there, and then quite a high-resolution photo. So if anybody wants to argue, they have photographic evidence. Is it the time to do it? You think speeding is that bad on the Isle of Man? Do you got any thoughts?
Hello, this is Krista from Port St. Mary. I would like to point out that there are currently no buses to Craignish and the Sound, and there are loads of complaints from tourists. And I met people saying, oh, if we had known that we can't go to Craignish, we probably wouldn't have visited the island at all, and things like that. And there was a bus coach. I met several people from them telling me that the bus driver didn't want to go to Craignish because they charge an entrance fee. And the people I met had the passes from English Heritage, so wouldn't have had to pay at all. So these are all things that really don't attract tourists. And locals can't go there either if they don't have a car. And it's really annoying. My suggestion is, why can't we do something like community bus? And would Visit Isle of Man support us? And there are a few other organizations I think of should support us, like Manx National Heritage, because they run Craignish, or the Sound Coffee Shop, or whatever. So, what could you please ask and I wonder whether Charles Gard knows about this situation. He was cited, or he was mentioned on the program earlier, so I wonder what he would have to say about this. Thank you, bye.
Thank you, Krista. Is this true? Buses aren't going to the Sound at the moment? Is that true? Can you tell me? What's the official word on it? With reference to single-use plastics, says 527. Does this mean you can't sell bottled water? And who's going to police this? Yes. Is there a Dobbin line for this? Do you can you report people who are supplying single-use plastics? I know Show transition plan or face fines is the headline. A ban on 10 commonly used single-use plastics items has come into force today on the Isle of Man. The Manx government described it as a major milestone in making sure we have an environment people can be proud of. Businesses can no longer sell, distribute things like straws, carrier bags, cutlery, plates, polystyrene cups and containers. How are takeaways going to cope with this? Anybody with stocks of the banned items is going to be asked to demonstrate their plan to transition to greener alternatives or get nicked and face a fine. Most plastic is produced using oil, and many of the resulting items are used and discarded in seconds, but can take hundreds of years to break down. So what's the story regarding plastic water bottles? Tynwald members voted unanimously to ban the sale, distribution and supply of 10 of the most commonly used SUP, single-use plastic items, which have sustainable alternatives. That was a year ago. Michelle Haywood was the political member in the Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture. So here we are. Also included in the ban are personal care products, including which contain microbeads, balloon sticks, and products made from oxo-degradable plastic. Bag for life style plastic bags and bags used for uncooked meat and fish are exempt from the rule, as are plastic straws and cotton buds used in medical settings. So drinking your Coca-Cola is not a medical setting, so don't try and use that. If you want more advice, by the way, if you want to check something out, you can call them on 685-835, 685-835, or visit netzero.im, netzero.im, or 685-835. Ask him about those plastic bottles. So I wonder whether we'll see a big reduction in litter from now on if they're not going to be selling these sort of things. And genuinely, I wonder how the takeaway industry is going to get away from this. Also, the overtaking stuff regarding Santon as well on Cow Hill. So is that going on? Yes, it is. Still speeding going on. People nipping around just to get one car ahead. A birthday card sent to me first class from the Midlands in England last month. Took 8 days to get to the Isle of Man. Text to 294. Any advance on 8 days for a first class? It's about £1, isn't it, now, to send them in? The Phil S, that is. Can we be told who recommended and who signed off the appointment of TT Merchandise Cube, which now owes IOM PLC serious amounts of money? Says Andy in Amsterdam. Have you heard the story about Cube now owing us a fortune? These are the people that took over, because hitherto it was Motorsport Merchandise, the people who had the big shop in Duke Street, which is now, I think they're hospice are in there now, but that massive, and they used to have half of the back of the paddock, back of the grandstand, used to be taken up by Motorsport Merchandise stalls. Government's terminated the contract with Cube International. They've fired them. They've sacked them for the supply and production of Isle of Man TT Racers merchandise. Immediate effect, breach of contract terms. I think it's because they owe us 6 figures. Tim Johnston, MHK, said it's frustrating and unfortunate that the government is in this situation. It could be another committee, could be another report. Run at arm's length is just government's word for devolve responsibility. I really don't know why we need so many MHKs, says Derek. This is the story of the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company, which we bought. And with hindsight, of course, extremely wise. It was a very, very, very pertinent thing to do. To purchase the steam packet was always a cash cow for the various people that owned it. So now we own it and we make the money from it. It is run at arm's length. The shareholder is the Treasury, but it's run at arm's length. Also, it is one of 2 organisations that is not subject to FOIs. No freedom of information requests for the steam packet will be processed. Ditto, the Manx Development Corporation. We're not allowed to know, although they're both arm's length operations, we don't quite know. So we'll only know what the steam packet want to tell us. Plastic bags. What's the legality regarding health services who would use for specimens? Hospitals and dentists and laboratories don't have any alternative. All health workers appreciate that. Thank you, Joe. Registered dental technician, I think, in clinical situations. You're fine, Joe.
Hi, Andy. My name is Bill from Ramsey. I would just like to report an incident that happened when I was travelling on the Manxman on the 24th of August. I grounded my vehicle on the ramp when I was disembarking in Douglas and submitted an accident report and did all the usual, made all the usual comments. And they said they would put it in the hands of their insurers. And only last Friday of last week, I got a reply saying that they were not going to accept my claim because it's now deemed the passenger's responsibility to be responsible for any accidents that occur on or leaving the vessel. According to the conditions of travel, I think it's called. And it was a very short reply, just to more or less inform me that they weren't responsible in any way. I just wondered what the public might think of this. Now, it seems that they're not going to cover any costs of any damage occurring on the vessel, which is a new principle, as I understand. I just wondered what the public might think of this, and certainly the reaction was not only very disappointing, but very prolonged. Having submitted it on the 24th of August, I didn't get an answer until last Friday. Just wondered what the public may think of this. Okay, thanks, Andy.
All right, thank you, Bill. Good to hear from you. What's your opinion of this? Have you had any experience of having an accident on the, particularly if you've grounded, coming on and off the boats? What's the situation? Is it true now that the steam packet aren't handling any or taking responsibility for any groundings on the boat? That was something that was mentioned by the motorhome fraternity, saying that sometimes they don't want to bring their very expensive motorhomes to the Isle of Man because there's a danger of grounding on the boat. And who's responsible, and which insurance company takes responsibility? I'll leave that with you. If you've got some thoughts on that, by all means, get in touch. Howard's on now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. I've just listened to when you're doing the introductions there, and I smiled when you said about the 160,000 which queued over the government, and nobody's responsible for it, and this, that, and the other. Who is going to be? Will there be? Well, if you think back to when the MEA, as it was, when building the power station, there was 120 million was unauthorised loan, and there was a serious debt which we're still paying for now. And when they had the inquiry at the end of the day, nobody was found responsible, and nobody had any full knowledge of it. It was, the quickest getaway, as I say, gone in 60 seconds, that any committee and any responsibility for that particular action was taken. And it still is to this day. It's gone, disappeared into the ether, and the Joe public are left here paying off that £120 million loan. Then they get the DOI where they've had the promenade, and $1 million has disappeared from the funds for that. So hence the horse trams have only come halfway. And I noticed there on your headlines, it's a temporary thing. They've taken down the old buildings at the end of Strathallan there. Yeah. So the horse trams have been terminated, obviously prior to that, so that safety for the horses, etc. But government are past masters in creating vacuums where any responsibility is going to be needed, and they can move the balls around until such times that they all disappear. So you're not going to get an honest answer about who was responsible, and not only that, but why was that debt allowed to build up, because that'll only be the thin end of the wedge. You've got a lot of people out there that's private industry, private practice, etc. They're going to be equally as short of money, because that firm, as we know, went into, it was in serious financial difficulties itself. So the government should have been looking at this a long time before now when this debt got as high as it has. So somebody within the government, within the civil service who look after all this, they should be made responsible. Well, they can't make them responsible. They should be held responsible.
You just wonder why, and again, this is, I'm not saying it's entirely the same, but it's similar. Do you remember years ago when they took the TT TV contract off Greenlight Television and they gave it to a company across for whatever reason they're fully entitled to, but, by common consent, it wasn't as good as it had been with Greenlight. Greenlight kept all the money on the Isle of Man, employed dozens and dozens of people, and lo and behold, within a few years, it comes back to Greenlight. And we had motorsport merchandise, which made an admirable job of it, always fully stocked. The TT shop was open till 11 o'clock at night sometimes during TT because they wanted to sell. And, I don't even think that motorsport merchandise entered into it because the okay for the contract was given so late they couldn't source the merchandise because it comes from the Far East. So why, I'm not saying they're doing it deliberately, but why would you trip up local suppliers for the sake of going outside the Isle of Man?
Well, it does make you wonder, and seriously wonder, what is the objectives of you can't say the government because indirectly, yes, but having said that, it's the civil service who are there on a permanent basis, and these are the people that are running the show. The politicians are there short term. They're 5 years at the best. And if they seriously mess things up, then they can be emptied. But the civil service and the people in like the Department of Enterprise and all this, that and the other, these people are supposed to have their fingers on the button. But they're not. They're not. They're sitting back and just enjoying the joys of their job and being up in the hierarchy, kowtown to other people. That they forget what they're there for. And this is why these debts are building up, and it's not going to get any better. So, you look at it all along the line, and I didn't, I was out yesterday, so I never heard that woman on from the, what we call Department of Enterprise, the tourist board, we used to know it. And I had heard one thing about 1.5 million people had been here on cruise liners. 1.5 million. The island would have been 3 foot underwater.
To be fair, Howard, what she said was that if you take the spend at £60 per head, that brought £1.5 million. So the cruise liners were worth about £1.5 million to the island. Yeah. But they were talking, and this is the crazy attitude of some of these politicians, of building an £80 million cruise liner berth. They can't even get the one right in Liverpool. Well, can you imagine if we'd started on that? I think there were two possibilities. It was either going to be just below us in Port Skillion, built out there, or it was going to be in Port Jack, of all places.
Well, Port Jack, if you look at the plans and the maps, that's a marine conservation area. And I'm very much surprised that they're actually allowed to anchor out there. Because as a young person, and it's a long time ago, I remember on the promenade, on the shore in Douglas, there used to be seahorses. And that was where they had the eelgrass, was a big bed of it out there at front of Port Jack, all down the bottom of Strathallan. And that is where seahorses breed and live. You won't see them now because they use them for anchorage points. And of course, the ship is going round in circles, and as it's doing that, it's wearing out the eelgrass.
Yeah.
And it destroys the environment for the seahorses. And this is all part of what's supposed to be the marine environment, a marine conservation area.
Interesting.
But anyway, going back to what we was give us some answers. The government, politicians, what we pay them for, give us some answers why that was allowed to build up, and who within the sections of government were responsible for it.
Okay, all right, thanks, Howard.
That's a question on behalf of the people of the Isle of Man.
Okay, all right, good to hear from you. Thanks for that.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers now. And David's on now. Hi, David.
Hi, Randy. I didn't listen to the programme yesterday, but I will do. I'll catch up on that. Paul, can I go straight into regarding the housing arm's length organisations?
Yeah.
Now, we've got the hospital, we've got the housing board, they're going to try. My personal view, and I listened to Tynwald on some of the questions regarding the housing board and the small debate on there. My real concern is government putting it out to an organisation that is not accountable, is not touchable, and like the hospital, at the end of the day, if it's an overspend, the taxpayer has to pick it up. And I'll throw in the issue too, and I thought, I've never seen so much laughing and giggling in Tynwald for a little while anyway, but when Mr. Krugel said, who was asked questions because he's still the chair of the Manx Utilities, he said, if anybody wanted this job, get in touch or contact the Chief Minister. And the planning chair, there are definite conflicts of interest that's going on at the minute there with them not replacing them. And why are not the politicians standing up to doing something for the island or the benefit of the island, being a planning chair or the Manx Utilities chair? Are they too worried about making sometimes unpopular decisions?
That's a really important question. Is politicians making unpopular decisions? But surely every politician who chooses to go into national or even regional politics, local politics, knows they're not going to be everybody's friend.
No. Yes, you're quite right, and it's difficult. And Ashford was talking as well regarding the planning side of it too. We need a planning chairman that can actually make decisions a lot quicker. But if Ashford is the housing board emperor, or whatever you want to call him, with his group round him of private individuals there's got to be conflicts of interests. And is he going to declare them all the time when he's in Tynwald? And we need somebody in there that's going to be absolutely neutral and get some of these decisions made regarding, well, we still haven't got an answer about the Newsom site. We still haven't got the answer of the one down at the Castletown Golf Links, which we need to do.
Talking of the Newsom site, you know this the 1 to 3 tramway terrace that the government, the infrastructure, want to carry out emergency demolition.
Yeah.
Well, in 2018, David, that was registered it's a registered building. The tramway stables, the Douglas Bay Horse Tram stables, are registered buildings, but 1 to 3 Tramway Terrace was registered on the 13th of June 2018. That's a registered building which the government seems to want an emergency demolition. This is exactly what they've said about nuisance, that nuisance can't knock nuisance down because it's in an unsafe state, very unsafe state. But the government wants to knock down 1 to 3 Tramway Terrace because it wants to, but that's a registered building.
And can government avoid the laws of the land? No, they can't, unless it's for national need or something like that, and it has to go through Parliament. And the concern is here, and you're quite right, Andy, we bought all these properties from, I'm sure it was Douglas Corporation, spent a fortune on them, and then they were condition surveyed and they're found to be weak structures, past their best, and we have to do something with them. Look at the Summerland site. It's a giant builder's yard for the DOI and government departments to store stuff. Look at it.
Okay. All right.
I'm just amazed, mate, that nobody, and if you're getting 67,000 to be a politician, surely to be a politician you have to be involved in government.
Okay, thanks, David.
Bye.
All right, good to hear from you. Yes, under the Town and Country Planning Act 1999, Town and Country Planning, brackets, registered buildings, close brackets, regulations 2013, the Douglas Bay Horse Tram Stables and 1 to 3 Tramway Terrace, Queen's Promenade are registered buildings. The Protected Buildings Register includes Douglas Bay Horse Tram Stables and 1 to 3 Tramway Terrace. That's it. And now the government wants to knock them down. By the way, conspiracy theorists, you can take a day off because all the conspiracy theory about the MGP going after the centenary is off the table because the Classic Junior MGP and Clubman Racing are being included next year, an expanded 6-race programme for the MGP being introduced for 2024, 18th to the 26th of August, seeing the return of a 3-lap Classic Junior MGP for the first time since 2019. They've had consultation with a race organiser and representatives to bolster entry numbers and ensure the long-term viability of historic racing at the Manx Grand Prix. Smaller 350s will be eligible as well. We'll have more news. We've got more news at manxradio.com on the sport and news pages. And we've got, let me see, Chris. Hi, Chris.
Good afternoon, Andy. Just a couple of corrections on yesterday's discussions. I'm part of Cloydering Northern Theatre Group. We were invited to San Diego for the Star of India's 160th birthday. We've worked a little bit with Visit Isle of Man. They offered to try and send a box of leaflets on the Isle of Man out to the hotel. Then it was decided that the shipper couldn't get it in there in time, and it wouldn't get through customs. Now, this trip that we've been invited on, we're ambassadors for the Isle of Man, for Ramsey, and to celebrate the building of the Euterpe, whose name was got wrong yesterday as well. We're not a group of singers. We're basically, as I say, the ambassadors who go out there. I wrote to every one of Ramsey commissioners and have not received a single reply. We're all self-funded, apart from help from Douglas Rotary Club. Conservatively, this trip for 14 of us is costing about £30,000. There's going to be network television. There's possibly something like 500,000 visitors just for the weekend in San Diego. And it's just a bit disappointing, the support we haven't got.
Whose idea was the trip?
The trip, we were invited by San Diego Nautical Museum after they came to Ramsey last October to see the musical that was put on by Cloydering Northern Theatre Group.
And the £30,000, how far are you into that? Are you fully funded at the moment?
Well, it's all self-funded.
So you're paying for it yourselves?
Yes. The flights were booked through a travel agent a little while ago. The hotel, I think at the moment, because it's such an important weekend where this event's going on, the Star of India sails out of the bay with all the other ships in the museum. She's superbly looked after there. It just gets a little bit annoying when they talk sums of $6 million for the Peggy, and Ramsey's got the oldest iron sailing ship still working in the world. Okay, it's looked after in San Diego, but we should have a little bit of pride in what our shipyard produced here.
And also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure, isn't she a California, she's an official historical landmark. As you know, she's not just tied up, she as you say, she goes in and out of harbour.
Exactly. She is a U.S. national monument as well as a Californian landmark.
Well. So, when do you go?
The group leaves on, I believe it's the 8th of November.
Okay. And tell me, what sort of show will you be putting on while you're there?
While we're there, we will be performing the songs from the musical that was done in St Paul's Hall, and again, I think we did it last weekend or the weekend before. And then a nice, rousing set of sea shanties.
Fantastic. Okay, we wish you well, and thanks for getting in touch today.
Okay, thanks very much. And anybody wants to support us, we're here for Ramsey on the Isle of Man.
All right, well, in that case, stay there. Just give us a shout. How do people get in touch and how do they support you?
Good question. I think you would find Cloydering Northern Theatre Group on the internet, on a Facebook page, and can contact us all through there.
Okay, all right. Thanks for calling today. We appreciate that. The former Star of India as she is now, currently in San Diego, and the people in San Diego absolutely love the Star of India, or she was the Euterpe when she was launched in 1863 in Ramsey. Euterpe, if my Greek mythology doesn't escape me, I think Euterpe is the Greek god of music, or one of the muse of music, something like that. Anyway, the Euterpe, now the Star of India. Neil's with us now. Hi, Neil.
Good afternoon, Andy. Thank you. Following on from what one of your previous callers, I think it was David, was mentioning about planning, and this rather ubiquitous and vague term of national interest. Myself, and indeed several other people I know, have been through the planning process, and our local planning inspector here, Ms. Sarah Cole, had said no to a particular development. That was underlined by an independent planning inspector who came in and also said no. But then the minister overrules it on the grounds of national interest. Now, I put this into the hands of my solicitor. Obviously, they're a much more professional approach than me. And even my solicitor was unable to find out exactly what national interest means.
So it means whatever somebody thinks it means.
I think it is just an excuse for government to be able to facilitate their development friends and build wherever they actually want, even on open space areas. It's just a convenient excuse, which makes people like myself have absolutely no confidence whatsoever in the planning process.
And again, I've had various letters from people who describe a similar situation as you, and they talk about that feeling of helplessness and almost hopelessness.
It is hopeless because you follow the planning process. The area plans are followed on. Certainly, I followed the area plan through the provision stated quite clearly that this area was not to be developed, but it's effectively overruled by the minister. So, actually, what is the point in the planning process? I listened to Alistair Ramsey on Monday night. Very, very interesting interview with Phil Gorn. And I could really underline everything that Alistair was saying, to be honest. A very clever and astute man, very well known on the island for his financial backing, etc. And when somebody as astute as Alistair Ramsey comes on and says he has literally no confidence in the current administration, and the fact that huge ticket policies are being put about at the moment. Nobody has consulted the Manx public about, Alistair was underlining, nobody has consulted the Manx public about the energy programme on the windmills, etc. Nobody has consulted the Manx public on an increase in population. Nobody has approached the Manx population to see are they in favour of rescinding the work permit system. It seems to me that the big ticket items are simply organised and presented by a cabal of senior ministers, and everybody in Tynwald just seems to fall in line. And here's the difference in the policy. When Eddie Tear was the health minister, I'm going back maybe 15 or so years, there was a very debate going on about fluoridation in water. And Eddie did the correct thing. He called a public meeting. I think it was at the Villa Marina, and I went down to it. And what Mr. Tear had done is he had Dr. Cushaw, who was the island's director of planning at the time, and then there were two experts. One expert was for fluoridation. One expert was against fluoridation. They both gave their presentations, and then Mr. Tear opened the debate up on the floor for 2 hours of questions and answers. And then they went away and made their decisions following on that. But we don't seem to get that anymore. We seem to be presented with policy rather than having any input to the debate in the policy. And that's a bit frightening, really. I wonder whether we're actually in a democracy or becoming a sort of a dictatorial state, to be frank.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, Neil, I appreciate that. Thanks for calling.
Lovely. Thank you for your time, Andy.
Not
Bye-bye
at
now.
all. 14 minutes before 1. If you want to hear that very interesting half hour, Alistair Ramsey talking to Phil Gaughan, it's on our podcast page. Just go to manxradio.com, click on podcasts, and it'll be there. Agenda it was last Monday. Phil Gaughan talking to Alistair Ramsey.
Looking for the perfect gift for your foodie friends and family? Look no further than woodburndeli.im, your go-to online haven for culinary delights and thoughtful presents. At Woodburn Deli, we offer everything from specialty spirits and wines to artisanal cheese and charcuteries. Step inside and explore perfect gifts and treats for you or your loved ones. Not to mention our selection of hand-packaged hampers. Vouchers available too. Just visit woodburndeli.im.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
At Isle of Man Energy, we're excited to offer our customers the Alpha E-Tech efficient hybrid gas boiler and heat pump combination. This state-of-the-art hybrid boiler causes minimal disruption to your existing heating system, making it simple to upgrade. Priced from just £65 a month and with 6-year warranty as standard, which can be extended to 10 years, what are you waiting for? Register for a free consultation at isleofmanenergy.im.
Discover Bathline, the new name in bathrooms at Haldane Fisher. Visit their brand new bathroom and tile showroom in Douglas for a stunning range of bathroom styles and designs. Or get inspired online at bathline-bathrooms.im. Whether traditional or contemporary, Bathline's dedicated in-house bathroom designers will bring your dream bathroom to life. Bathline at Haldane Fisher. Designed for living.
Optionay is on its way, and all next week on Manx Radio, you could be a winner as we play The Devil is in the Detail. All you have to do is go to manxradio.com and work out our devil in disguise. There'll be a different one each day, and at the end of the week, we'll give away a Optionay hamper from ShopRite, crammed full of spectacular goodies, just in time for the 31st of October. The Devil is in the Detail at manxradio.com, and it all starts on Monday.
The Man in Line with Andy Wint.
Asked am I, it's 11 minutes before 1. Regarding speed cameras, a big no, they're awful things, says Bill, WhatsApping in. Let's have a look here. It is regarding just a touch on the speeding discussion. I actually feel like we have the opposite problem. I drive a lot for work, all corners of the Isle of Man, and I'll be, if I don't get stuck behind somebody driving 10 to 15 miles an hour slower than the speed limit, a queue of cars longer than the border between America and Canada. Yes, with no shame or intention of letting people pass. Most routes to and from major hubs on the Isle of Man have a handful of places clear enough to actually overtake, and if the person in front of you doesn't quite have the confidence, your 10-minute pop to the shops turns into a 3-hour ordeal. I'm sure you're exaggerating for effect, but we get the point. I want to shop Manx, but often the shops are closed by the time I get there. Thank you for that. WhatsApper 059. And regarding Tesco, says Phil, I'm seeing Tesco bread and eggs in Peel, Tesco ShopRite. I assume all the monies are going to Tesco now. They need to get some Tesco award points in their shops immediately. Thank you for that, Phil. And Julian's with us now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Just a quick comment on the single-use plastic ban. I've a feeling that the problem won't go away with the likes of paper bags and food packaging and takeaway cartons. A few of the problems that I kind of see is that it takes 4 times more energy to manufacture a paper bag, because you need high temperatures used to heat the wood chips, and then you've got the toxic chemical solutions, and they end up being about 50 times more polluting in the water if they manage to get that way. And a lot of these things are produced in countries that don't really care with just throwing it out into the waterways. you're going to end up cutting down a lot more trees to supply this new need for paper bags, etc., which was the original reason for using plastic bags to save the trees in the first place. When you put paper bags and stuff into landfill, you haven't got water or light or oxygen, so they degrade at about the same rate as plastic because they need those ingredients. But if you're in the middle of a hot landfill, you're going to have a bit of a problem. And if you're trying to recycle to get clean paper, you can't recycle eco-packaging that's been in contact with food or grease because it will ruin all the rest of it. And that's even at the point when you put the stuff in a bin that hasn't been separated and all the rest of it. And then, of course, you've got the eco-packaging is not as durable as plastic. I mean, you try, it'd be quite interesting if there's a heavy rain shower and you're using a plastic bag or, you've got fruit or vegetables that's been rinsed in water. So I think the problem's not the plastic or the paper bags. It's to do with the mindset of being more reusable. And I would have thought, like offering stronger reusable bags and cultivating a more reusable mindset might have been the better option rather than just going to something that's going to use 4 times the energy, no more recyclable than anything else, and you're cutting down more trees.
Oh, great. So we've got a new set of problems then while we get rid of the old set of problems.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to go back and look at why we brought in plastic in the first place. And part of the reason was to save the trees. So, if we're suddenly going to have all the supermarkets with loads of plastic bags everywhere, and I don't know, if you've got like heavy rain like we've had today, well, how's that going to work if you've got your car on the other side of the car park?
Okay.
I just wonder, are we going to see a load of people walking out with the bags falling, the bottom of the bags falling out and stuff where they're just disintegrating?
All right. Thanks, Julian.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Here at the Ramsey Park Hotel, we're delighted to introduce our new executive head chef, Leslie Jacob. With a food philosophy of classic food combinations and flavours and his international experience, Chef Leslie excels in both New World cuisine and classical cooking, with the emphasis on great ingredients combined with skill and intelligence to delight diners. Call 818-123 to book the Lakeview restaurant at the Ramsey Park Hotel and discover seasonal specials, lunchtime offers, winter a la carte menu, Sunday roasts and more.
We are ready to go at B&B Furniture with a wide range of managers' specials throughout the store. If it says I'm ready to go, then it is ready to go. Priced in-store for immediate delivery and no long wait for stock to arrive onto the island. Get the furniture you're longing for with no wait, no deposit required and 0% finance available when you get ready to go at B&B Furniture. It's all here under one roof at the B&B Furniture 3-storey showroom in Snugborough.
B&B Furniture.
Have you been invited to take part in the Household Income and Expenditure Survey? It's one of the most important surveys for our island because the information you provide is vital data for our island's financial planning. It helps us calculate our VAT revenue from the UK. Plus, it gives us a better understanding of the financial strains on residents, so we can support those who are struggling. If you've been invited, please take part. Visit gov.im/HIES for more information.
When you save a little money, it means a lot these days.
If you're looking for bathrooms and tiles, you'll always find something new in store at Pacesetter. For surprisingly affordable prices and excellent choice, search online for Pacesetter Douglas. Or better still, visit the Pacesetter Bathroom and Tile Showroom on Harris Terrace and see the new styles in store.
You can get the best of everything, where the price is twice as nice.
The Man in Line with Andy Wint.
A note in regarding Marie. Thank you, Marie. 785. I'm concerned the Alabama government is seriously eroding the Manx identity. By relaxing our work permit system, we could have dire consequences for our way of life. I know of Manx businesses that are experiencing difficulties but are dismissed by government employees. Freedom to flourish, but not if you're a Manx producer. Marie says government wants people and businesses to come here, but don't look after the people already here. Will Tesco bring in new employees when we already have residents who could fill the vacancies? Next Tuesday, we're talking about the airport. Gary Cobb, the airport director, is on Manx Radio. And if you've got any questions for Gary Cobb, then you can email maninline@manxradio.com or call the answer phone on 682631. See your politician this weekend, Rob Callister. The Onken MHK's got a political surgery this coming Saturday. at Onchan Community Hub. It's between 10 and 11:30. No appointment necessary. So if you want to discuss a particular local or national issue, just nip in for a quick chat. That's the Onchan Community Hub, 10 to 11:30 this Saturday for Rob Callister. And he says you can always message him at any time of day or night. 664475 is his number, or mobile 457511. Also this weekend, there's a joint surgery for the Douglas North MHKs, David Ashford and John Wannenberg MHKs. There's some Douglas councillors also at Williston School, Main Assembly Hall, 11:30 until 1, the third Saturday of every month. And this Saturday is the third Saturday, being the 21st of October. So Rob Callister at Onchan Community Hub, 10 to 11:30. David Ashford and John Wannenberg in Williston School from 11:30 until 1. Lots of messages in today. I haven't read them all yet, but I certainly will. And tomorrow, Alex Brindley's looking after Man in Line. Beth Espy's on Monday. So enjoy the rest of your weekend and watch out for the weather.
WINT